We are back as the markets tend to struggle for direction after a lot of turmoil surrounding tariffs. We'll be discussing that, the latest with the yen carry trade, and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. As we get going, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and remember, nothing that Kevin or I say is financial advice, so please do your own research for making any buys or sells. Kev, got a lot to talk about today. Got some jobs data that is showing us that the job market is still robust as ever. We have, some volatility in the crypto markets. We're seeing earnings start to hit some of the AI-focused businesses a little bit more. So quite a bit to talk about there. How are you feeling as we hit the halfway point in the week? You're on mute still, by the way.
No wonder I couldn't hear myself. Yeah, so we're doing pretty good right now, I think, with this week. Nothing too crazy. I look at the VIX chart and you can just see that there is kind of this pattern in the market right now where it's like something bad happens, crush volatility as fast as you can. And I kind of think that's why we're seeing flat tape here. You're not seeing a lot of money kind of come in. You're actually seeing a lot of money flow out of the system right now. Reverse repo drained, I believe, like 50% or something like that the other day, and yesterday drained another like 15 billion. So like I said, it feels very similar to February 2020 when you were starting to see those facilities drain. You're seeing the market kind of push up or stay flat, which crushes volatility. And a lot of this tariff talk has just caused a lot of problems, I think, for a lot of nations too. We're seeing not necessarily the craziest moves against Japan, but the moves that we've seen across other countries, talks of tariffs on Germany, how's that going to impact the euro, Canada, Mexico. There's so many fluctuations that have just caused a lot of these currencies to get out of whack and kind of it can lead to another trade unwind. But for right now, I think the market is doing its best to, try and get through to that point. But there's a lot of signs out there that just continue to push towards, hey, we might see a big correction and it might last, I don't know, 10 to 15 days, and then we could bounce, significantly hard to the upside. So it's kind of my assessment from what I'm seeing this week. Nothing necessarily has changed from that. But again, we have like 2 weeks before to see if the theory is right or not.
Let's look at some of the data we've gotten this week. Yesterday was job openings, came in at 7.6 million, actually about 400,000 jobs below the estimate of 8 million. But then today we see private sector employment expectation of 150,000 jobs added over the last month came in at 183, and it was higher than the previous month of 176. So getting some mixed signals here that there are less jobs open all around, but still plenty of people who are looking for work and who are finding jobs. So I think that's kind of I don't know if it was really like cancel each other out, but like the job market is still kind of tough to figure out the moment, and how is that going to impact inflation. We saw, factory orders and other, service data come in and, be under expectation. So like some softening there as well. I think we're seeing that there are cracks and they're starting to broaden a little bit. Meanwhile, we had the delays on the tariffs. The markets initially responded favorably to that. But then the shine wore off a bit there, especially in crypto. I think there was once again, we heard from the new crypto czar, and people are realizing, and this is something you and I talked about after Trump got elected, and even before that, when he was talking, when the idea of the strategic Bitcoin reserve initially came out, people are starting to realize that the speed that crypto moves and the speed that the U.S. government moves are nowhere near each other. So like the excitement of this strategic reserve, sovereign wealth fund, all of these things, and be like, oh, this is going to pump our bags. Maybe in months or years from now, because we just don't know. Like, yes, Cynthia Lummis is trying hard to get this thing going, but it's not a top priority right now amongst this administration. Like, it's something they want to do, and for their own, selfish reasons. You had Eric Trump out there pumping ETH yesterday after they bought a shit ton of it. So, nothing shady about that. But people are realizing like, oh shit, this stuff is not going to happen as quickly as we want. It may not be a good idea for us to hold these things. I think that's part of why we've seen this choppy price action in crypto. It wouldn't surprise me if this year there's a heavy amount of chop throughout the year. Maybe we go down, we test some lows, but we could see Bitcoin in this 90 to 97K range for quite a while, or even a bit lower. Like, I think people just need to readjust their expectations. Everyone's like, oh, Bitcoin in Q1 is going to go up to 125K. We're going to end the year at 200K. It's an easy 2X. I don't know about all that. I don't think I'm going to agree with that at the moment. I mean, listen, if I'm wrong, then that's great for my portfolio. But I'm just broadening and expanding out my time horizon here of when I think I'm going to start selling some of my crypto.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I took the meeting and everything that the cryptos are. Again, what's his name? David Sachs or something like that. Yeah. Again, I really don't care what his name is. I think this is such a goofy position because I know nothing's really going to come of it. And we were building up into it. We were pumping into it, right? Ever since the dump on Monday, going into it, and then market kind of just trades sideways. You're seeing crypto, specifically altcoins pull back a little bit here too. It's the thing. It's liquidity, man. It's crypto joined forces with TradFi, so now it has to adhere to the rules of TradFi too, where you're not going to necessarily see big moves unless one market is open. So it's like, are we going to ever see a dump in crypto on a Saturday again? Who knows, right? It happened Sunday into Monday morning, Asia into U.S. hours. It's just a different game than it was, just 2-3 years ago. Obviously, there is still Tether that is out there. I don't even know if they're going to be as strong moving forward, but this crypto thing really does come down to liquidity. And I think that if TradFi is going to see some pain, there's no reason not to believe that we're going to see some in crypto as well. Outside of that, I think we should talk about a little bit about Google and what happened there yesterday, because that's a pretty nasty chart. And once again, another tech stock that is just absolutely heavy, and they dumped it. And guess what? The market is still today somehow flat on the tape for tech and the S&P. So very interesting times ahead. But let me pull that chart up right now.
And I mean, we could add to that. We can mention AMD also. They reported earnings yesterday. I was looking through some of it, and part of it was that like their top and bottom line were good. Some of the data center numbers didn't meet estimates, but were also up like almost 70% year over year. So part of me is like, whoever's like creating these estimates, like maybe they need to pump the brakes a little bit. Like, I understand that you want growth, but for the stock to dump like this based off of only 69% growth, nice year over year, is a bit crazy in my book.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, this is the interesting thing here, and why I've said that February is the month where we will see the major correction. All of these tech stocks going into earnings were putting in very bearish patterns. Look at Google right here. This is a parallel channel to the upside. What happens? You lose the 50 moving average. You're barely hanging on to it today. You got a gap down here all the way down to 178. Now, is this, the end of the correction, that it's going to go down, 7%? I don't really think so. I think we're going to test the 200 for a lot of these things. And I think we're going to lose the 200 for a period of time, and then it'll bounce back. But we were a very frothy market all of 2024, end of 2023. I mean, it was extremely frothy with some of these trades. NVIDIA, started to pick up momentum. I think that right now, what we're seeing with some of the fears in the market itself because of Trump and what's happening with this trade war, there's only one country we're really not going to trade war with, and that's Japan. We'll get to that in a second. But this is what we're looking at. All these top heavy signals that are telling us, it's coming down, it's coming down. I wouldn't be surprised if we bounce back into this channel. And then when whatever happens, whether it's the yen carry trade or some black swan that we don't know about, that comes probably between February 14th and February 24th, that would necessarily be where it could break from, and it could drop significantly, very similar to how it has. And maybe the computers aren't there to bid and keep it from going any lower, like it has been, like it is today, honestly, to keep the tape this flat. AMD, let's pull that up real quick, and then we'll finish off with GameStop, just because there's some interesting stuff going on there. But AMD is absolutely eating shit. It has been for a while, and you're getting to a point where you kind of erase all the gains from that October 23 bottom, and you're only what 15% from that low from October 2023.
Is that a death cross there?
Oh, is it? Hold on, let me see. I haven't seen one of these in a while. I'll have to get my glasses out. They're already on my face. We can make a drinking game out of that one pretty soon, because I think there's gonna be a lot of stocks that we'll be playing that for in the month of March.
Buddy, I don't think I can be drinking at 1:00 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Okay, like that's not really an option. I got a kid.
We'll do a happy hour episode, or we'll just take shots of chocolate milk.
The last Friday of the month, we just do a happy hour episode where we like catch up for all the drinks from the death crosses throughout the month, something like that.
Yeah, it's just one big bottle of vodka. Outside of that, yeah, this is AMD. I haven't been following this one, to be honest, but we're not in a good place for a lot of these stocks. Oh, you know what? I got to pull it up too, just because Jim Cramer is saying this is like the greatest thing ever next to Nvidia. But Palantir,
yeah.
Oh my gosh, guys, this I don't know if you know it. There's like a parabolic trend where you can kind of see where it heads, and the finance lot's got a really good chart of this. I just don't have it set up on my trading view, but the parabola has not inverted, but it's gone back in time. So the way that the price action is supposed to follow, it starts going negative in like back in time. So if this isn't a blow off top in Palantir, I don't know what is. But again, you're getting all these blow off tops for some of these heavy top heavy stocks. Look at the stochastic RSI 93 and 95, and you got a massive gap here. I mean, this gap is from here to there. I mean, that's 19% to the upside, and if it were to fill it, we're looking at 15% down. Is that where it stops? Who knows? This is a very similar chart to what we're seeing in Japan as well, so that's why it's really funny to me. Look at the weekly. And then you just had the Jim Cramer, a kiss of death. The weekly is actually insane that this isn't oversold. I mean, overbought already. It's actually pre-oversold. Let's see the monthly, if there's any difference there. Oh, monthly's bullshit, man. Look at that. Monthly's completely overbought too. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one is one that we see a decent pullback in. Last one is GameStop, and then we'll go over to Japan, and then we'll finish it with crypto. But because there's not necessarily too much that we have to go over on a lot of these charts. Let's go to the daily. We're looking at this, right? We're looking at this triangle. It looks like it breaks out somewhere in March, which is ironically where I think the bottom of the market is going to possibly be for this flash crash that we could see. And right now, looks like we're going to the 200 EMA. A lot of people are afraid that, this isn't going to happen, that it's not going to go to all-time highs, that we're not going to get the requel of what we saw back in 2021. I say hold on. It's a very interesting trade, because this kind of ties in with the yen carry trade, is that UBS has been eating shit lately. UBS also took over all the bad debt from Credit Suisse, right? And Credit Suisse had a lot of GameStop exposure to the point where they also ate tons of shit back in 2021, and they still hold all of the shorts. So they pretty much took on all that. UBS is, probably in a position that they don't necessarily want to be in. And you got the yen carry trade kind of unwinding to the point where, hey, we might see a bit of a pullback in the market. But what happens if a lot of people who, have shares of GameStop start to recall those? We already know that Ryan Cohen took a shit ton of shares off the market. We saw that yesterday, 2 million shares were borrowed. I'm assuming that's to make sure that the books weren't fully cooked for some institution that needed to show them on their balance sheets. And I believe there was no shares to borrow at some point yesterday where they just couldn't find any. So, and again, another failure to deliver. This is going to be one that could rocket absolutely insanely if we start to see the yen carry trade unwind, and the timing could not be more perfect. Maybe it won't happen when the market dumps. We might see a bit of a pullback there, but that might be the opportunity to get into this. I'm looking at the 200 moving average right now, which is 24.36. I think that's not out of the realm of possibility of hitting it this week. Likely, I mean, we're at 25.03 and it's been dumping like crazy the past few weeks. But the thing is, too, we got a gap here at 26. We got a small gap right here at 32 to like 32.30. And then we're in this wedge that should break to the upside. And once it breaks out up here, we got our levels. We got like 48, we got 64, and then beyond that, I think it is going to get parabolic. So this could be another requel. There is rumors 2/6 is going to be an important day for Roaring Kitty. So we'll see if he does anything to tweet out. Again, going to the yen carry trade and all the fun stuff that's going on there. You can see that everything that Trump has been doing is kind of setting up for that position. The last time we touched the 200 moving average to the downside, which would be back here in, July, but no, actually it was July 25th. It was a Thursday. You bounced down for a few days. Next thing you know, you lost, right? We're at the 200 moving average quietly again. Do we hold it for a few days and then do we lose it? If there's any place where this is the most dangerous and this is going to be the most telling of what happens with the unwind and where maybe it doesn't get saved this time, at least the equity markets, it's right here if you lose this 200 moving average. I think that if we lose it, it's going to be lost extremely fast and it's going to possibly hit, I don't know, maybe in a week or two. Let's see this. This is from the 25th, and then we got all the way down to the 5th of August. So how many days is that? That's 7 bars, but that's probably like 12 days or something like that, I believe. And so 12 days from where we currently are, what is that, the 17th of February? So kind of within that range of where we expect to be in that critical time of when this thing could unwind. So I'm watching this like a hawk. I'm also looking at this too. That ain't bullish. That's pretty bearish if you're short on the yen. That looks like that's going to break down, in my opinion, but I've been wrong before. So this is another one we got to keep our eye on. Let's see. Nikkei. Yeah, Nikkei is the same pattern. It looks like it's going to break down. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same pattern that we saw right here all the way in May. You had the little fake out in July, and then next thing you know, boom, all the way down. And maybe this one doesn't get stopped this time. Maybe this one bleeds out. Maybe the U.S. does save it, because if we do look at this real quick, I know this is a lot of shit going over right now. Reverse repo, lowest level in a long time, is at 85 billion. This continues to drain. That means that we're probably not going to see it get saved, but we do have the emergency repos that are out there, which we know could allow for a pretty decent summer rally into Q3. So that's something that we're kind of keeping an eye on if that is going to come true. Outside of that, I think this is just, we're probably days or at least a few weeks out from seeing major moves in currencies that could absolutely see a really big pullback in TradFi. TradFi is funny right here. I pulled these up the other day and I said, we got to fill these gaps. You filled it. You filled it completely. And if you look at the VIX right here too, this is why you know that they're just kind of just trying to tame volatility in the market. It's trading sideways for a reason. Tell me that this isn't bullshit right here. Look at this. Gap up, close it the next few days, crush volatility, gap up, crush it the next few days. What do we expect? Another pump to volatility? It's going to break out at some point. They can't compress it for this long. So we are on the verge of something big. I don't know how big, but I think it is going to be worthwhile and exciting when it does actually go off.
All right, let's wrap it up looking at crypto. We can go to Bitcoin chart. We're still seeing Bitcoin dominance holding strong above 61%. Alts continuing to bleed. Stable coin dominance rising a little bit. People are asking themselves, is like the calm before the next leg up or the next dump down? I can't tell you. A lot of stuff looks oversold right now, especially on alts, but they can stay that way for a while. But what are you seeing in the charts?
I just pulled it the monthly just because I haven't looked at that in a while. But yeah, on the daily, everything looks extremely overbought. However, the weekly looks like there's still room for downside. Right.
On the daily, it looks oversold, right? That's what you meant to say.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's oversold on the daily 100%. But that could fluctuate really quick, right? We could get a little pump to the upside of, maybe the top of 109 again, maybe 106. I'm not necessarily sold on the idea that we're going to push up a lot higher from here. And if we do, I don't think it's going to be beyond those dates that I keep giving. I think that there's a very good chance that we could see a lot of volatility around those dates. So maybe crypto has another similar thing that it saw Sunday night, where it before even the markets open in the US, we start seeing a bit of a sell-off. But this is where I'm very interested in seeing, the daily could get overbought, and then, once it gets overbought, it kind of corrects with the weekly and the monthly. Everyone's talking about this 81, 82 level. I'm totally fine with that hitting the 200 moving average, but I think we are going to lose the 200 moving average the first time that we go down. And it's going to scare a lot of people, right? You might get a bit more liquidations than you possibly expect. And a lot of people who are maybe long leverage a lot earlier might get wiped out on some of the stuff to the move to the upside because we haven't tested this range in such a long time. And I think he kind of had the safety net with Trump coming into office. Now he's in office. Now you're kind of getting not the most bullish news out here, and dominance is very high. I would expect there to be some type of correction that maybe is lower than, the 200, maybe lower than the 77 level I keep talking about. It might be 73, 74. I mean, if we're looking at that, we do have this top right here from March 10th of last year. We did have this top right here, and this is second to last day of October of last year as well. That's where I think you'd find some support. Maybe that's just looking short term. After it kind of settles and we see where the market pullback does eventually lead to, then maybe we can talk about where it goes after that. But I do think that the 200 moving average will be tested, and I think that probably will lose it for short term, and then you might find a bit of a balanced support around the 74 level. But what that means for everything else is, maybe we have a bit of a climb until we see that move to the downside, and maybe even during that crash, we could see Bitcoin dominance increase, right? It's very possible that we continue to see this thing go up. Maybe we revisit this 64.31 level that we got the other day. Nothing's out of the realm of possibility, I believe, for dominance, especially if markets get spooked enough in a short period of time. But I'm looking at some of the other alts and everything that came back significantly since that crash on Monday. And, I'm looking at XRP. It's down again. It's lower than where it was when it opened on Monday. So that's very interesting to see. You look at ETH, which Eric Trump was showing. Well, that doesn't look promising. It's lower than where it was the other day. When he said, this might be a good place to buy. Cardano, you're on the 200 moving average. That death cross is probably going to come at some point. And I get it. The stochastic RSIs are oversold on the daily. That's not a shock considering that we've had since the 20th, pretty much just down days all the way to this point. And I think this is going to be the case for everything. So maybe you get a short-term push to the upside, or you get overbought really quick off of no price action. And if that's the case, then we're probably going to expect the price action to be a lot more negative when it does hit. Other thing we got to look at is the Bollinger Bands on the daily. It looks like these are getting tight once again. So maybe we compress towards the top of this range. Maybe Cardano goes to like 99 cents. Maybe XRP goes to, actually, I don't know where XRP is going to go. This thing's kind of broken out from other places. Let's see. Maybe, I don't know. I really don't know where that one's going to go. I'll have to take a look at that one deeper. But where's ETH? Maybe ETH gets to 31.63. It's very possible it has enough to do it. I mean, if you look at the daily, death cross isn't too far, and we know that death crosses tend to lead to rallies. We always get a rally right before the death cross happens, and then right after, boom, it tanks, and then we get the death cross. So it's going to be interesting to see, but we want to see these Bollinger Bands kind of compress as it gets closer to this white trend line. I'll make this a little bit thicker so we see, right around here, it was be 31, almost 32 or so would be about the range I would say it could bounce to, but that might be short-lived. This might be resistance once again, and since you couldn't break out of it and you got the death cross right there and the broader market is selling off with Bitcoin, could we be at 2000 again? It's very possible. I genuinely see a lot of resistance in this range and a lot of things kind of coinciding with what we're seeing in TradFi as well. I wouldn't be expecting a breakout from this. Could it happen? Yes, absolutely. But I think the weekly and the monthly indicators that we're looking at, not necessarily the weekly for ETH. Man, ETH is so bad, even the weekly is just shit. Month is shit too. I mean, if I go to XRP, look at that. Complete opposite.
This token is just, ETH is just.
Of course, Eric told me to buy this thing.
Excellent. No. Just wanted to use everyone for exit liquidity real quick.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm seeing across the board. Solana too, right?
Didn't even get it to stay above 29, and we're under 28 now. Like, what is these putzes?
Yeah, just watch the Bollinger Bands and watch resistance levels. You might get a rally into key level of resistance, and maybe it breaks above it for a moment, but I don't think long term, say by the end of February, that we're going to be able to sustain some of these pushes that we might see. It could get volatile short term, but there's a lot of bad stuff happening in these charts, and I don't necessarily trust a single word that comes out of Trump right now. Japan still looks like the big one to me. That scares me the most.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for today's show. Appreciate those of you who joined us. If you haven't yet, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Kevin and I will be back on Friday to close out the week. So have a great rest of your week, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.